All right, so OpenAI, the company famous for its super closed models, just did something nobody saw coming. They went open source. Well, sort of. And we're going to unpack exactly what that means right here in this explainer.
And you can imagine, this news just sent shockwaves through the whole developer community. I love how YouTuber One Little Coder put it. Open models coming from OpenAI is something that I did not dream of, but here we are. I mean, it was a genuine shock, right? Especially when you think about it. OpenAI's entire business model is built on their private, closed APIs.
So, okay, what did they actually drop on us? Well, they released two flavors of this new model called GPT-OSS. First up, you've got a 20 billion parameter version, which is actually designed to run on a pretty beefy laptop. Then there's the big one, a 120 billion parameter beast meant for data centers. But here's the really cool part. It's their design. They're both what's called a mixture of experts, or MOE model. And what that means is they're super efficient, because they only use a tiny piece of their total brain power for any one question you ask. All right, so as you'd totally expect, the launch came with a ton of hype. Let's dig into the official story, the big promise they were making about power, privacy, and all the freedom you'd get.
And the pitch was honestly super compelling. First off, total privacy. Because it runs right there on your machine, your data never has to leave. That's a huge, huge deal for any business handling sensitive information. Then there's the freedom. It's totally free for commercial use, thanks to the Apache 2.0 license. That means you can tweak it, fine-tune it, build whole products on top of it, all without ever paying an API fee. That's a massive pain point solved for so many developers.
And just to really drive home what that commercial freedom means, check out this point from AI. They pointed out that you can take this model, build an entire business on it, and you don't have to open source your own work. You can literally wrap it up, turn it into a closed source product, and go make money. For the open source world, that is a huge green light to just go and build.
Okay, so all that power and freedom sounds amazing, right? But it's kind of useless if you can't actually get it running. So just how easy is it to get this thing working on your own laptop? And it turns out it's surprisingly simple. There's this free tool called Ollama, and with it, you can get that 20 billion parameter model downloaded and running with just one single command in your terminal. That's it. Boom, you're chatting with it locally. I mean, that kind of simplicity just tears down a massive technical wall for so many people.
Okay, so let's recap. It's free, it's private, and it's easy to run. That's the hype. But now we get to the big question, the reality check. Is it actually any good?
Well, on paper, the benchmarks look incredible. I mean, take a look at this math benchmark, for example. The little 20 billion parameter model actually scored higher than OpenAI's own proprietary O3 Mini. And that wasn't a fluke. Across a whole bunch of academic tests, it looked totally state-of-the-art for a model of its size.
But, benchmarks don't always tell the whole story, right? They could be a bit artificial. So what's the real-world vibe check? How does it actually feel to use, according to all the developers who jumped on it right away? And this is where the whole story starts to get a little weird. Pretty quickly, a very different narrative started to bubble up from all the independent testers. Ahmad Mustache, who used to be at Stability AI, I think he captured the feeling perfectly. He said, it kind of feels fried and odd at times. And he wasn't the only one saying that. A really clear pattern started showing up in the community feedback. You kept seeing words like jagged, uneven, strange vibes. People trying it for creative writing were pretty disappointed. One really deep dive found it was, and I'm quoting here, blatantly incapable of writing proper German. There was just something off about it.
So how do you square that circle? How can it have amazing benchmarks but this weird, real-world performance? I think its quote from Nikhil Chandok just nails it. He said, "What it is, state-of-the-art at its size. What it is not, O4 Mini, as many people have been claiming." So yeah, it's impressive for what it is, but it's not the mini GPT-4o everyone was hoping for.
Which, of course, leads to the big question, why? Why the disconnect? Why does it feel so synthetic? Well, the answer might not be in what the model is, but in how it was actually built. Okay, so one of the big theories making the rounds is that GPT-OSS is a so-called Phi-Style model.
Now that's named after Microsoft's research models. And the key thing about them is they weren't trained on the messy, chaotic, raw text of the internet. They were trained heavily on super high quality, curated, and get this, synthetic data. That means text generated by other, bigger AIs. Now that approach is fantastic for acing tests and hitting benchmarks, but it can make the model feel a bit weaker, almost brittle, when you ask it to do real-world creative stuff.
So why on earth would they do that? Well, it probably comes down to one word: safety. Think about it. For a company like OpenAI that's always in the spotlight, releasing a powerful open model is a massive risk. But if you train it on a perfectly controlled synthetic dataset that you created, you can make sure there's nothing, nasty or controversial in there. It's a safety-first move to avoid a PR nightmare, even if it means the model loses some of its creative vibe.
And this leads us to a really, really important point, a distinction that gets lost in all the hype. What did OpenAI actually give us? Is it open source or is it open weight? Because they are not the same thing. See, true open source means you get it all: the model's weights, the training code, and the training data, the whole recipe, so you have full transparency. Open weight, though, that just means you get the weights. Just the final baked cake. So here's the bottom line. GPT-OSS is an open weight model. It's not truly open source. It's an incredibly powerful tool that you can go and build with for sure, but it's not a transparent project. You get the finished product, but you don't get the recipe. You can't actually see how it was made.
And that completely reframes the entire story, doesn't it? It leaves us with this one big provocative question. Is GPT-OSS a genuine gift to the open source community? Or is it a very calculated, strategic move by OpenAI? A move to set a new, safer, Phi-Style standard for all open models, subtly shaping the future of the whole ecosystem in its own image? The answer to that question? Well, it could define the next big chapter in the open source AI race.